new edition of our show. My name is Business Sense. We always say in business means money, stability in business, and a lot more. Mean a lot of money and mean business definitely, of course. We're here with you discussing a lot of what's going on in Egypt and of course linked to the whole world, especially that the world economies are reeling under the effect of the COVID-19 and its derivatives and Omicron and so on and so forth. What's going on in the world is, of course, affecting Egypt, definitely, and affecting everybody. We all one planet and one big entity at the end, all related to each other. We've got with us tonight Dr. Said Al-Khouri, who is the Dean of the Faculty, previous Dean of the Faculty of Management in Ain Shams University, and is Professor of Management at Ain Shams University. Also, the chairman of the Promotion Committee, Universities Committees of the High Promotional Council of Universities. Welcome, sir, with us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
It's always a pleasure having you with us here.
Thank you.
And there's a lot to talk about, especially as we go on and we see opening up, closing up, and so on and so forth with the COVID-19 and the Omicron and so on and so forth. And we don't know what's going on, really, what will happen in the future. But we are going to go for a short break, especially that recently, in the past days, the South Korean president came to visit Egypt. So we have a lot more in the coming report.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received South Korean President Moon Jae-in at the Federal Palace, where an official reception ceremony was held for the South Korean president, which witnessed the display of the Guard of Honor. On Wednesday evening, South Korean President Moon Jae-in arrived at Cairo International Airport on the first visit by a South Korean president to Egypt in nearly 16 years. On the sidelines of the joint press conference, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi expressed his appreciation for the momentum witnessed by bilateral cooperation in various fields between Egypt and South Korea, and his pride in the depth of Egyptian-Korean relations, which witnessed a remarkable development during the past years. On the sidelines of the press conference, President el-Sisi and his Korean counterpart Moon Jae-in witnessed the signing of a number of cooperation agreements between the two countries. The signed agreements included a memorandum of understanding to conduct a joint study on the feasibility of the trade and economic partnership between the two countries, and a memorandum of understanding for financial cooperation with the Economic Development Cooperation Fund for the period from 2022 to 2026. It's worth $1 billion. Minister of Trade and Industry confirmed that the Memorandum of Understanding regarding conducting a joint study on the feasibility of concluding a trade and economic partnership agreement between the two countries includes the formation of a joint working group on the feasibility of the agreement and the identification of economic benefits for the two countries. The agreements included a document of arrangements between the Arab government of Egypt and the government of the Republic of South Korea regarding a loan from the Cooperation Fund for Economic Development for the modernization project of the Egyptian railways, Luxor and the High Dam at a value of $251 million, and a document of exchanged letters regarding a non-refundable grant of $7.9 million. In light of the good relations that unite the two countries, the Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics helped increase the value of trade exchange by 23.6% during the first 10 months of last year, recording $1.9 billion. The groups of commodities exported by Egypt to South Korea during the period were fuels, mineral oils, and their distillation products with a value of $455 million. They also included inorganic chemical products with a value of $42 million, animal food with $32 million, as well as stone and cement products with a value of $18 million, and $3 million worth of credits. On the sidelines of the visit, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli received the Korean president at the roundtable meeting of the Egyptian-South Korean Business Conference on the Green Economy and the Future. The Prime Minister added that the economic relations between the two countries witnessed a remarkable development during the last period. He explained that from January 2021 until the end of last November, the total volume of trade exchange between the two countries increased by 53.5% to reach $2.2 billion. President Moon Jae-in also delivered a speech on the sidelines of the conference, saying that all this is only a beginning. The Egyptian economy has enormous capabilities that qualify it to achieve progress and development, as young people represent a large proportion of the total population. Egypt also enjoys a distinguished geographical location and an abundance of natural resources. Egypt seeks to implement its 2030 vision for sustainable development to embody this potential and turn it into an actual reality. The Korean president concluded his speech with the phrase, "Come on, put your hands in ours, let's gather our strength in one force to step together towards the future of common progress." On the sidelines of the roundtable conference of the Egyptian-Korean Business Council, the head of major Korean companies in the field of heavy industries said that the company will work to enter the Egyptian market for desalination and water treatment by exploring opportunities to win applications by providing water solutions that meet the needs of the Egyptian state. And the official page of the First Lady Intisar al-Sisi on the social networking site Facebook, she wrote that she was honored to receive Kim Jong-suk, wife of the President of South Korea, and their meeting was full of rich discussions on supporting youth and empowering women in all fields, in addition to their talk about the Egyptian state's efforts in development, the economic and social role played by young people in this aspect. While she welcomed the honorable guests of Egypt to their second country, she would like to extend her sincere thanks to Mrs. Kim Jong-un for her kind feelings and kind words about Egypt, which confirmed the depth of the distinguished relations and friendship between the two countries and peoples. On the sidelines of the visit, Dr. Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General, received Kim Hyun Mo, head of the South Korean Cultural Heritage Authority, and his accompanying delegation at Karnak Temple in Luxor. During the meeting, aspects of joint cooperation between the two countries were discussed in the field of archaeological and museum work, including excavations, antiquities, restoration projects, developing services at archaeological sites, using modern technology in the field of archaeological work, and organizing temporary exhibitions of antiquities.
welcome back again to Money Means Business with our guest, Dr. Saeed Puri, a former Dean of the Faculty of Management in Shamsi University. Also, he is the Chairman of the Promotional Committee of the High Council of Universities. Welcome, sir, with us.
Thank you.
Well, as you've seen, of course, and we all know, the visit of the South Korean president to Egypt to boost, mutual concern fields and interest, definitely. But how do you see that?
Let me start with this. It's very important visit for South Korea president to come to Egypt, and he come with a lot of agreement with joint venture with Egyptian industry. They signed already agreement, which we call it as a strategic alliance between Egyptian firm and South Korean firm. They already started years ago to invest in Egypt, and they have a huge investment in Egypt. But this visit is simply to really enforce the implementation of the fourth revolution industry. This is, we are talking about high-tech industry, and in order to join South Korea, which is known worldwide in their advances in science and technology, to come and invest in Egypt, and they have a joint venture with Egyptian firm. That is a very good news. They already started, for example, in Bani Suef, one of the electronic giant. They opened their factory in Bani Suef, and the unemployment rate, it became like zero in Bani Suef, where this huge investment with country like South Korea, it will bring a lot of good news to Egyptian economy, and also not only in monetary value, but also in reducing the unemployment rate, which is reduced from last year. It goes down, and that is what we call it as we set objective before, and now we come to the level of growth where we are concerning now for growing our economy. The gross development product, for example, 3.3 last year. This year is the expectation of International Monetary Fund and World Bank. It will go beyond 5.5% growth rate. And the year after that, 2023, it will go up to 7%. And that is a good news. And unemployment rate, it is reduced from last year to this year. It is a huge reduction. And all of that, it really, it depends on the Egypt Vision 2030, which we established years ago. And now we start to see on reality joint venture. As we said before, we use a strategic alliance, we use a joint venture in order to enhance our industrial sector. And not only the conventional industrial sector, but the fourth revolution industry, which it is the mean for developing a new product. For example, worldwide now we are going through a green industry, and Egypt considered to be one of the main country enforcing the green industry in the region, in Africa and in the Arab world. And we started with that, as we can see it, when President Sisi opened a lot of solar system in Aswan and then Upper Egypt. And this is part of green industry, and we're going through a vision, we're going through tools in order to implement the fourth industrial revolution in reality.
Definitely. Well, when we were just previously talking, actually, we always talked about, well, the Vision 2030, the goals that we have. Definitely, with each action there are goals to achieve. But then we're just thinking about goals at the beginning, and we should be doing this, we should be doing that. Right now, we are in the phase of, well, we have been talking about goals, but we are now achieving those goals, and we are talking about growth, and we are acting right now because we, since we just paved the way for that, built infrastructure for the projects and so on and so forth, and for the different ways of living and the business to be done here. Now there is, well, we're building on that, and we're talking growth.
Absolutely. First of all, we are not going to repeat what happened, but in order to have a growth, you have to have infrastructure. Infrastructure means, and we saw it in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of infrastructure, roads and tunnels and bridges in Egypt. We see excess of power supply in Egypt. Electricity, now we exceed our consumption rate, and we start to export our energy to our neighbor countries. In many countries, which Egypt now consider to be an exporter for electricity for our neighbor country. And all of that with the training and implementing a strategy for youth in order to develop their skills, to develop their education, in order to meet the new challenge we face with the fourth revolution. It is not only when we talk about infrastructure, it is not the infrastructure itself, but what we are going to have besides this infrastructure. We build a new community, we built a new cities. We have now the new capital, for example, a new Mansoura, new Ismailia, new Port Said, and so on. And all of that, it really bring a social infrastructure, new infrastructure for Egypt. And we also, not only infrastructure, we build the human, the Egyptian personality, the Egyptian people, enhance their skills in order to meet the new challenge.
Definitely, definitely. And we have, well, you know, here also seeing the new capital. Well, we are the new republic right now of Egypt, and we need the new capital. The new capital, that's, you know, very important. Some people, when it was about, are, you know, casting doubts all the time. And, you know, whether it's, you know, the uninformed doubts, or they just say it on purpose to, you know, cast doubt or spread bad information. But, well, talking about the new capital, now we had Cairo, now there is a new capital with a new age, with a new republic. How important is that? And how, you know, like answering those uninformed, let's say, you know, ignorant, misinformation, let's say.
So all of that is rumors, and I always say there is a difference between say and do. Years ago, we used to talk and say, and now the policy of the Egyptian government and the Egyptian president is do first and then say. And let me just give you an example. The infrastructure, we can see it on the ground, yes or no. The development in healthcare system, it is true or false. And all of that is sadly, we are not talking about myths, we're talking about reality. And that is do, action. And the government took the action to develop and improve the quality of life of Egyptian citizen through, for example, Haya Karima, 400 million healthy people,
Yes.
and discovering and going through the pandemic. And that is do, that is reality, not myths. And the rumors, of course, when we started, when the government started implementing Egypt Vision 2030, it is a plan, it's a vision, it is do, and also it really making a lot of change. And when we talk about change, there's always a resistance for a change.
Yeah.
But the resistance is very weak right now. It's very minimal because it's based on rumor, and rumor, it doesn't really bring the Egyptian growth from 3.3 to 5.5 in less than a year. And that is a reality, not a myth.
Yeah, definitely. Also, this is the answer, you know, to these people, you know, like poor minds, you know, that you start spreading rumors. And, you know, we see that, well, the international monetary entities, they are praising the achievements of Egypt, well, and, you know, its own budget and how, you know, things, it's, you know, its own work and, you know, development that is taking place. So this is not, you know, what we are saying here. This is the testimony of, or testimonies of the different monetary entities and the World Bank and all that.
What I'm saying, it is not an Egyptian statistics. It is a very reliable international Monetary Fund, that is International Monetary Fund, that is a very reliable source of information. World Bank is a very credible source of information. Fitch and all of these kind of international European bank, all of this, it is an official statistics from a very credible organization, which is you saw a lot of development in Egypt. And you consider Egypt, it is the second place right now in all Arab world and in African nation. We classify it as the second country. And that is, we don't have a wealth of the oil or the Gulf and so on, but the growth rate we have last year during the pandemic, that's a good indication, that's a good indicator for how well we are. Most of our neighboring countries, whether in Arab country or African country, they were, even in European country, they were in the negative side when you talk about gross development product. Only country in the region which in the positive side is Egypt. And thanks God for most of the countries, they closed down, they shut down their business or their economy because of the pandemic. Egypt, they worked parallel, fighting the pandemic and at the same time going with the economic development, and we didn't stop. And I believe that is the right policy. And if you talk about the worldwide now, we can see a lot of crisis in the States. We are facing a lot of crisis in Europe and so on. But Egypt going in the right direction with the growth. And again, growth, it is a key for success of this government and this country.
Definitely. Well, that was my question, like I was going to ask, but then it's very important what's going on, and when this crisis hit us at the beginning of the COVID-19, we did not know what was going on. How would our economy fare in this dilemma or these hard times, actually? You know, all our analysts used to say, well, we'll go on in it, we'll just work hard and we'll go out stronger. And I was wondering, yeah, we are trying, but how? And things are still, as you said, working, you know, parallel to what's going on, and as if nothing is happening, and a lot of work and a lot of development and growth taking place. However, this crisis is going on, and it's affecting, for example, tourism. You know, we had tourists coming, actually, again, but then, you know, they have lockdowns, and well, according to England, well, they're going to open and deal with it as normally as any kind of flu or anything like that, but still we haven't seen this, and they just, you know, put some countries in the red zone, or they just, you know, have their own categories. How are we going to go on? Are we going to go on the same way and get stronger, or this is still going to be affecting us?
I'll give you a very brief answer. For a week ago, we have the fourth World Youth, which organized in Egypt, where we have thousands attended this forum, and it was a follower. We'll talk about over 80 million people. They were following the fourth World Youth Forum across the Hybrid and Zoom and so on, and that's an indication for Egypt standing now as a leader of youth development in the region and even in the world. And also I give you a very good statistics right now with the climate change conference, which it will be held in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh, the end of this year. That is a plus for Egypt, where the world leader, for all world leader, whether we're talking about the States, European leader, Asian leader, they will come and attend the climate change meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh this year. That is a plus. That's Egypt. Egypt is a very big country, and now the administration, the Egyptian administration, they believe in management, managing resources. We have a lot of resources, but we used to misuse these resources before. Now we are really using our resources in a very efficient way. Today in the afternoon, President Sisi have a meeting with the Minister of Agriculture and Minister of Irrigation, and they were talking about how to grow our agriculture sector in Egypt, and now we are not really exporting raw product, vegetables and fruits. No, we are producing now how to manufacture these raw materials, which is fruit and so on, have industrial base to it, and then export it. So the added value, it is doubled or tripled, and more of this, it will bring more revenue for the Egyptian economy in the future.
Definitely. What are the challenges that can meet us in this period, especially that we see some lockdowns again and we don't know how things will unfold?
I believe we'll pass this COVID-19 by the end of this year, and it will become, as you mentioned, it will become like a flow season for the whole world. Yeah. But basically, what we're really focusing on is to train our people, improve our educational sector, improve our healthcare sector, and the quality of life for Egyptians through Haya Karima, for example. That is a plus for the Egyptian economy and for the future of Egypt. Of course, there is resistance, but resistance now is very minimal. If you talk about worldwide resistance, for example, it was a statistics done a couple of days ago after 1 year of Biden administration, where his approval rate, it's in the 30s. If you have approval rate in Egypt, for example, for our government or president, it will exceed the 80%. So if we talk about rumor, I don't like to talk about rumor. I don't like to talk about negative, because the more we talk about negative, more negative will come.
Exactly.
Now we are talking about positive, and we see it, the change on ground. We see a lot of improvement in the ground, and not it's only what I'm saying or our Egyptian saying. I'm talking about international indicators, which it shows people it will be one of the leading country in the region within a couple of years.
Definitely. Well, we'll go for a short break, after which we'll be coming back. Stay tuned to us. Don't go away.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Finance Mohammed Mait, and Dr. Ihab Abu Aish, Deputy Minister of Finance for the Public Treasury. Ambassador Bassam Radi, official spokesman for the Presidency of the Republic, said that the meeting dealt with a review of the draft budget for the next fiscal year 2022-2023. In this context, the President directed to raise the minimum wage to £2,700 and to approve 2 bonuses at a cost of about £8 billion. The first is a periodic bonus for employees addressed by the Civil Service Law at 7% of the job wage, and the second is a special bonus for workers not addressed by the Civil Service Law at 13% of the salary basic. Egypt exported products worth $2.4 billion to the United States of America during the past year. The United States of America topped the list of markets importing Egyptian products with a value of $2.4 billion, surpassing Saudi Arabia, which ranked second with $1.99 billion, and Turkey, which ranked third with $1.97 billion. Egypt's non-oil exports increased by 26% last year to a record $32.1 billion compared to $25.4 billion in 2020, an increase of $6.7 billion. Alexei Likashev, CEO of the Russian Nuclear Energy Corporation, Rosatom, told Russian reporters that the construction of El Dab'a nuclear power plant in Egypt is expected to begin in July 2022. The head of Rosatom said the Egyptian authorities are determined to make every effort to carry out the initial pouring of concrete this summer, initially in July. It is worth noting that Russia and Egypt had signed an intergovernmental agreement on the construction of the country's first nuclear power plant in Cairo in November 2015. The total construction cost is $30 billion. The two parties also signed an agreement to give Egypt a government export loan of $25 billion for the construction of the nuclear power plant, which will cover 85% of the works. The cabinet announced its approval during its weekly meeting for the Ministry of Finance to start producers for issuing sovereign sukuk in international markets. The value of the expected offering of Egyptian sovereign sukuk ranges between $500 and $1 billion. The offering contributes to providing the necessary funding for investment projects listed in the Economic and Social Development Plan in the state's general budget, pointing out that the timing, size, and type of offering will be determined later. Last Monday, Marsa Alam International Airport received 4 international flights within 54 international flights, where precautionary measures are applied very strictly to arrivals from various international airports upon their arrival at the landing site. Among the incoming flights to Marsa Alam International Airport this week are a flight from Belgium, 3 flights from the Netherlands, 4 from Italy, 9 from Germany, and a flight from the Czech Republic. Dr. Adel Abdelazim, Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Egypt, stated that the remittances of Egyptians working abroad recorded during the first 10 months of the Gregorian year 2021 from January till October about $26.4 billion, an increase of about $1.9 billion and a rate of 7.8% compared to the same period in 2020. It also achieved during the period of July till October 2021 an increase of 0.7% on an annual basis to record about $10.45 billion compared to about $10.37 billion during the period from July till October 2020. The Egyptian Stock Exchange plays a pivotal role in supporting economic and social development plans, as the capital markets are one of the main pillars to help various economic entities access the financing needed for expansion and growth. In a report to the Council of Ministers, it confirmed the improvement in the performance of the most prominent indicators of the Egyptian Stock Exchange, and the performance of the main index EGX 30 improved by 10.2% as it scored 11,949.18 points on December 30, 2021 compared to 10,845.26 points on December 31, 2020. The report added that the market capital increased by 17.5%, reaching £765 billion in 2021 compared to £651 billion in 2020, while trading values in the main market increased by 45%, reaching about £1 trillion in 2021 compared to £689.6 billion in the year 2020. Egypt is looking forward to attracting new German investments in the automotive sector, cooperating in renewable energy projects and producing green hydrogen during the coming period. Today, Tuesday, Minister of Trade and Industry Naveen Gama held an extensive meeting with Peter Ramser, President of the Arab-German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to discuss ways to develop Egyptian-German economic relations in various commercial, industrial, and investment sectors, in addition to the renewable energy sector. The discussions dealt with Egypt's keenness to benefit from the great development in the field of German automobile industry and to seek to attract German investments to invest in the Egyptian market, whether in the automobile industry or industries feeding it.
We're back again to Money Means Business with Professor Dr. Saeed Dukhuri. And a lot has been happening, of course, in the past year. And the exports were unexpectedly higher than before, $32 billion plus, of course, the exports of the oil and petroleum. And the Suez Canal realized $6 billion revenues, and so on and so forth.
When we talk about exporting, the big plus for agriculture product, based on the new irrigation system, where we really doubled the amount of output from our land. Of course, the 1.5 million acre, which it add value, and we are self-sufficient when it comes to fruits and vegetables. And when we talk about exporting, it's supply and demand.
Yes.
So in agriculture system, our supply is greater than our demand, so we fully satisfy the local demand, and the difference between the supply and demand, it goes for exporting. And we double the, when we talk about digit number, we doubled the amount of exporting in dollar value from last year, from a couple of years ago, and last year it is doubled, and it will continue to grow the export. Exporting also, when we talk about energy, Egypt now, they are self-sufficient when it comes to power supply, and we start to export our energy to our neighbor country. Of course, with Zohr discovery in gas, for example, we have an excess amount of gas which discovered in Egypt, and we start to export it to Europe, for example,
Yeah.
and for Asian country. Of course, with the new Suez Canal, it really became one of the major logistic means or tools for supply chain worldwide, which is doubled from last year also. And all of that is really, we are talking about growth. So
Yeah.
we did a lot of structure, and now we see the fruit of our strategy, which it really shows in real numbers. In some industry, they are doubled, and in agriculture, in industry. And of course, you talked about before the break about tourism. It
Yeah.
will come back to Egypt. And thank you for the use form, which it shows the stability of Egypt, and we have the terror. It's reduced to a very minimal. It's close to zero, and we are safe haven for tourism to come in Egypt. And all of that, it adds to the Egyptian budget. And all of that, it will put some benefit for Hayat Karima, for example,
Yeah.
to benefit millions of people in Upper Egypt and in villages and so on. It will add value for educational system, for healthcare system, and that is based on the growth of our export and industrial base in Egypt.
Definitely. Also, there are just, we want to work on all levels, and of course with that we have to just upgrade the wages of people. When the government, talking about the government institutions and the workers in the government institutions, and the President talked about raising the minimum wage to 2,700 at least, and you know there are just of course extras that will be paid for the employees.
That is the new issue for increasing the minimum wage. It goes for the private sector, which it is the minimum wage now. It is 2,800, which is considered to be doubled. It used to be like 1,000 or 1,200. Now it's doubled for a private sector. It's going to be 2,800, and it started from this month, from January 2022,
Yeah.
and this implemented in the private sector. Of course, in public sector, it was increasing for minimum wage years ago. If you remember, 4 or 5 years ago,
Yes.
where the minimum wage it was 1,200, and with benefit and some fringe benefit, it will go to the same level as private sector. And of course, this is going with the inflation rate, because when the inflation goes up, the minimum wage has to go up in order to cover any increase or any inflation rate, which is very important.
Definitely. And of course, like with all that, say, we talk about the work that Egypt is doing, and especially I go back again to the tourism side, because we had so many events that are very important taking place, and we're talking about the opening of the different museums with the grand ceremonies that are matching the kings and queens that were, they went from the museum downtown, the Cairo Museum, to the other museum of civilizations, which is very nicely built in a very nice area that is all, say, with all the grand manifestations of the grandeur, actually, with all the pompous event that took place, to just take them from the one downtown to the new place, their own residence, the new residence in the Old Cairo.
Of course, in Egypt, which it really what distinguishes Egypt from any other country, we are not talking only about ancient Egyptian history, goes for the pharaohs and so on, where the Grand Museum will really focus in ancient Egyptian monument, for example, and in Luxor, where they have opening for the roads for where it goes through the city of Luxor, and that is a plus side. And a couple of weeks ago, where in Sinai, they have in Santa Catherine, for example, where they have an attraction area for the Santa Catherine Church for Christian, and for Sinai, where it was the land of Moses, for example. They have attraction area over there. In Sharm el-Sheikh, they have a new museum in Sharm el-Sheikh for showing the different, all different historical event in Egypt, whether we talk about ancient Egyptian history, which is unique. Egyptology, it is part of educational system in Europe and in the States, and we don't have that in Egypt, and that is, we should really integrate our historical background into our curriculum here in Egypt. It's very important. People in high school in the States and in Europe, they study Egyptology more than the Egyptian.
Exactly.
And that is, we really should focus on that, integrating history with education for our kids in prep school, on primary school, in high school, and so on, even in university. So we have to be educated with our history. It is not only ancient history, which goes back thousands of years ago. We have Egypt also goes for Fatimi area, and for Muslim historical area, where we have a lot of mosques. Remember when Obama came to visit Egypt, they visited Sultan Hassan Mosque, which is considered as a landmark for people to visit and so on. And also we have the churches, which is a landmark for Egyptian, for example, and the Egyptian church. It is one of the major attraction area in Africa, for example. All of that is really, we have to really focus on different part of our history. Goes back thousands of years ago with the ancient history, which no country, Egypt, only one country, hold 1/3 of the history of the whole world. We're talking about more than 180 countries worldwide. Egypt hold 1/3 of this civilized monument and statues in Egypt. So we have to really invest in tourism. We have to invest in our Museum, and we can see the opening of the Grand Museum as a label for how to market Egypt worldwide. And I believe after Corona or COVID-19 gets done and pass away, which I hope it will be in a very near future, you will see the tourism, it will come back to Egypt, and not only for ancient, not only for Islamic historical area or Christian historical area, but also for the nice beaches and nice climate in Egypt, and that is, it will bring more tourism, it will come back to Egypt.
Definitely. Dr. Said Khoury, thank you very much for being with us.
You're
It's
very
pleasure
welcome.
having you.
Time flies, you're Nermeen.
With you too, it's our dear guest, it's really a great, and we are just very all hopes what will happen in the future, very near future, is going to be great because we've been building for that moment, and hopefully life goes back, I wouldn't say to where it was, but even better than what it was.
I believe, cross your finger, Egypt will be in a different place in the future, in a very near future.
Yes, hopefully.
And
So
God bless
crossing our
Egypt.
fingers, definitely. And I'd like to thank our viewers also, and we always say, God bless Egypt, God bless Egyptians, God bless our president, our army, our white army, our police, and God bless the world. And as we quote from the Holy Quran, ادخلوا مصر إن شاء الله آمنين, enter Egypt, God willing, safe, and from the Holy Bible, Mubarak Sha'bi Misr, blessed be Egypt, my people. I'm Nermeen Nazim signing off. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye for now.